What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Pickup Line. I'm one of your hosts, Ethan, and alongside me,
I'm Hannah Vaughn. Hi. How's it
Hannah.
going?
How are you?
I'm good. I'm
Oops.
just getting the chat set up. Excited to see everyone trickle in. I'm a little nervous. I think while I kind of bear all on this show, this is definitely going to be the most so far maybe personal thing I've talked about that I'm ready to talk about it, but I'm quite nervous. So big trigger warning for everyone who's just tuning in. We are going to be talking about abuse today, just kind of in general, specifically like domestic abuse. Yeah, I'm seeing people trickle in, and I really want to drive that point home. Like, today is going to be about abuse, specifically domestic abuse, in many shapes and forms. So yeah, just I want to just make sure everyone knows what to expect today. It's
Yes,
gonna be a little bit more.
Goes like what Hannah said, severe trigger warning if you're watching this episode, because some difficult topics are going to be discussed and you may get some firsthand accounts. If you're interested in talking to Hannah or I, or if you have something you want to share, call us 951-364-2430. But I think the important part is we start with the definition of abuse. Abuse is the improper usage or treatment of a thing, often to unfairly or improperly gain benefit. Abuse can come in many forms, such as physical, verbal, maltreatment, injury, assault, violation, unjust practices, crimes, or other types of aggressions. And I don't even think that's all the forms listed.
Yeah, it can come in many forms.
Mental mistreatment, neglect, self-neglect, abandonment. There are so many different types, and this could get emotional. So just, if this topic easily bothers you, I would turn off the stream now.
Yeah, you can tune in next week. We just talked about what we were going to talk about next week. It's probably going to be a serious one too. We'll see. Maybe we'll have to cushion it with something fun next week. We'll talk about it, but
yeah, we try and rotate in difficult and fun topics, because we don't ever really want to have a show where people are walking away depressed. Like, we want people walking away feeling like they learned something and they had a good time. But sometimes the more serious things do need to be covered.
Yeah, I think it's important. I mean, because relationships, as most people would agree, that they're not all just fun and sexy and hilarious and easy.
They're not.
It's complicated. Especially
then,
just two people trying to come together and coexist with all the and become intimate. So many things happen.
Well, I think also social media leads so many people to believe that others' relationships are perfect, and they're not. Most people are only going to show you what they want you to see. You're not going to see all the arguments or disagreements behind the scenes, which happen in every relationship. That's normal. But it's important not to put them on a pedestal and think, that person you see on Facebook is in the perfect relationship.
Yeah, no relationship's perfect. Some relationships are fucking awesome, but they're not perfect. They take work.
I agree with you there. Some are fucking awesome.
Yeah. High five. We found some good ones. But, I feel like it took me a long time to not only find the person that was a good match for me, but I had to, the person that I was 5 years ago was not deserving of the person. Well, I guess I don't want to say deserve. Was not ready for the kind of relationship I have now. I don't know if I was even capable of accepting that kind of relationship or
a fucking awesome relationship.
Yeah, I mean, so I want to just totally cat out of the bag, explain what I want to open up about today. While abuse, specifically domestic violence, is very, I don't know how to say, statistically, women face it a lot. And it's really shocking when you look at the numbers and see how many women are hurt by people that are supposed to take care of them, or supposed to, not take care, but intimate partners and people who you're supposed to trust. But I know firsthand that it is not always the case, and men can absolutely be victims of all kinds of abuse, and they can absolutely be victims of physical abuse. I had a couple, like a handful of episodes. I don't even know what I would call them, but I used to be physically abusive to my previous partner. Not on a regular basis, but just to, like, you know, kind of put it into perspective. But it still doesn't make it better that I even did it at all, ever. So I wanted to kind of, I know I'm kind of talking slowly because what's so nervous, I'm not really nervous that people like know this about me. I'm more nervous of like making sure I represent things in a way that isn't going to be like, I want people to benefit from this. I want people who, if you are being abused or you feel like you are someone who is the unhealthy one, um, I want to talk about it. And I just want to make sure that I'm giving not advice. I'm not a professional, but I hope that sharing my experience and my perspective is beneficial to someone who might be going through something similar on either end, because I have been on both ends. I didn't ever think that I would be. Looking at it now, it all makes sense that I was like a perfect candidate to become this way. But I never thought that I would become a person who was like so just hurting to the point where I intentionally hurt other people. Um, so I guess I get this unique perspective of knowing both of the mindsets. And I'm not saying that I speak for everyone who has been abused or I speak for everyone who has been abusive. But I hope at least you take something away from this. If you know, maybe I hope that no one's in that situation, but
Agreed.
you are. I hope everyone can take something away from this. And I just want to make sure I don't mislead anyone and say anything that's, you know, screwed up, basically, because, you know, I was definitely the screwed up one. Um
And I can't, like, you telling me this now, I can't even picture that, Hannah. I picture this lovable one I know.
I mean, I got an attitude still.
Oh,
But
I know you got an attitude. I can see that.
yeah, I don't know. It's taken a lot of work for me to get to where I am today. But basically my point of that whole like weird long rant is that I want to really emphasize that anyone can be abused. It doesn't matter if if you're bigger than me. You know, that's like the thing is when
Mhm.
I would tell people and kind of confide in what I had experienced and what I had done, I was ashamed. I'm still ashamed. I'm not proud of it. When I give the context, I go, "Oh, well, you know, he was so much stronger than you and he deserved it." And that really bothers me because, like, while okay, cool, it takes the responsibility away from me and the accountability away from me. Like, that's not productive. That's not going to make me better, and that doesn't make the world better by perpetuating this idea that men can't be victims. And it's just terrible. It really bothers me. And you know, I'm keeping up with the whole Johnny Depp situation. And while I'm not in that relationship and like I don't really like to, you know, give my opinion on celebrity relationships because like, dude, uh it's been interesting to follow that and see the narrative surrounding it. And I'm glad that people are I'm seeing a shift in people realizing that men can definitely be abused. Um
Right.
and definitely be victims. So it's just I want to add to that and just let people know, like, I can firsthand let you know that this like 5'2" something like was a very nasty, hurtful person and caused damage to someone who it doesn't matter what he did. He did not deserve that. I should have just left. I was very angry, obviously. I mean, it comes from somewhere, but that did not warrant the behavior. I was not expressing it in a way that was healthy for either of us. Um, doesn't make anyone feel good. So basically, what I did immediately after uh, realizing I had this was an issue, I got psychiatric help, and that has been very important in that was like the first step of like, okay, something's going on where I needed to like pump the brakes as much as I can. Not like, holy shit, I've got a problem, like pump me out with drugs. But basically it was like I went and saw a mental health professional immediately.
Right.
And not everyone who is an abuser like has mental illness. That's definitely not the case. But in my case, I do think that played a part in it. Doesn't excuse it. I can give all this context and explain my perspective and why in the moment I felt justified in doing that. But I do think that understanding like the root of the issue was how I learned to just behave better and to take out my anger better and communicate better and learn what my triggers were and realize that other people weren't responsible for them. It was my responsibility to have better
Manage
coping
that.
skills and communicate what was going on. And um I also want to touch on the fact that like, I have a history of abuse, and when I saw myself turn into this abusive person, I realized like I was becoming everything that
Hated.
that hurt me, like I was just, they talk about breaking the cycle. I was continuing it. I saw myself going down this path where I'm like, I am going to become the reason. I'm going to be part of the problem. Basically, I'm going to become part, like the kind of person that hurt me. And I didn't want to be like that. And I didn't want to come on here and be like, look, give people second chances because they can change. I really want to drive like the point home that if you are in an abusive relationship, don't take me saying this as, oh, well, people change, they get better, because it's a lot of work and nobody but the person can do it for themselves. Like, I hope that makes sense. Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah, and you should not just because you see Hannah's change doesn't mean you should stay in an abusive relationship. You
no, I
should
wouldn't recommend that at
absolutely,
all. Sometimes, like,
um
just complete, like, ripping the Band-Aid off and completely working on myself alone was what I needed to do. And, I was very lucky to have support, but it was nobody's responsibility to hold my hand and put up with the shit I was putting them through when it was getting to that point. It's not like I was just emotional and going through some shit. Like, I was causing harm. And I think that's the
right,
big difference is like, if someone's going through something and it's inconvenient for you, like, you should probably stick it out if you love that person. But if the person you love is causing real harm to you, I it's not your responsibility, it's not your obligation to wait it out and put yourself in a position where you're going to continue to get hurt and then maybe worse. um that person needs, to make real changes, not say, oh, I'm sorry, I'm gonna get better. Like, real changes, like when I recognized my behavior, and this is not me saying, oh, I'm so great, like, obvious I fucking wasn't, but I moved out, like, on just away from that person and started seeing a psychiatrist and a therapist. And it wasn't just immediate fix. Oh, I don't fucking beat people anymore. Like, I still had all that rage that I had to deal with. And it was kind of like because I hadn't dealt with it before, something triggered me and I realized I was so fucking mad at everything. I just wanted to burn the world down. And that was hurting the person I was with, and it was hurting me. Nobody should live like that. And it takes a whole lot of like shadow work, as I like to say. I know it kind of has a spiritual connotation to it, but I really believe like the concept and the steps you take when you really look inside yourself and face the things that are fucked up, and realizing that you're not always the victim and you have to take responsibility and accountability for the way the way you behave now because of those things. You can explain why someone behaves a certain way, but it doesn't excuse it. So I don't know.
We got a question from Ameet. Thanks for the $10 super chat. What are some ways in which you can recognize an abusive relationship? So, I mean, I can give you some warning signs of an abuser, and then Hannah, maybe you can expand on that. Extreme jealousy, possessiveness, unpredictability, bad temper, cruelty to animals, verbal abuse, extremely controlling behavior, antiquated beliefs about roles of women and men in relationships, forced sex or disregard of the partner's unwillingness to have sex, sabotage of birth control methods or refusal to honor agreed upon methods, blaming the victim for anything that happens, control of finances, abuse of other family members, children, and pets, accusations of the victim flirting with others or having an affair, control of what the victim wears and how they act, demeaning the victim both publicly and privately, embarrassment or humiliation of the victim in front of others, and harassment of the victim at work. And it looks like there is a hotline if you need help, which is 1-800-799-7233. That's 800-799-SAFE.
Yeah, well, I feel what's interesting about that list is I feel like some people who are in those situations might read that and go, that's not happening to me. Because manipulation and abuse has this really interesting way to convince one who's being abused that it's either not that bad or that they deserve it, that like, oh yeah, he's doing that, but that's because I'm irresponsible with my finances. Oh, that's because I dress this certain way.
Right.
And it just, I don't know, you kind of get into this cognitive dissonant, like, oh, that's not happening to me.
Right.
Even though
You
like, you
excuse
hear
it.
those things and you go, oh shit, that's all fucking fucked up. I didn't realize that I had been in abusive relationships until years after, because it's so weird in the moment how, you know, when you care for someone and when you love them and they're abusing you, and when it's not as on the nose as the way I was abusive, and it's like emotional and in other ways, it's really easy to kind of miss those warning signs. I would say, like, as someone who like on the flip side, as someone who has been in abusive relationships, I think if you feel generally like you are scared to share things with them because you're scared of the way they're going to react, um that would be like, that's probably like a very subtle warning sign. Like if you feel that in your gut, like you are worried to share like very simple things, like, oh, like for example, someone I know in my life said that if they were on a date with their partner, if the man was on a date with his female partner, his stomach would drop if he saw a female waitress coming over, because he's like, great, this is going to be a terrible time because she's going to be jealous. And so that's starting to be
Oh my
like,
God.
yeah, like he just knew it's gonna be bad because she's gonna get jealous and it's gonna be a fight. And it turned out he was in an abusive relationship. But you know, little things like that where you're just like that feeling of dread of how are they gonna react. You know, not because like necessarily you're
I
misbehaving.
get
And
that.
it's not like, you know, I mean, there is some guilt involved, and it's tricky. And I wish that I was a mental health professional so I could explain this more eloquently, but I can only speak as someone who um has listened to a lot of people who have been in these situations and have been in this kind of situation, and have gone to therapy myself. And so that's the only thing I can really lay is there's obvious warning signs that sound terrible that you might not recognize, but I think that feeling in your gut that you kind of dread their reaction and what they're going to do if XYZ happens. I'm not going to say, oh, that means you're in an abusive relationship, but I would say start, if you are in a safe place to do so, start just kind of looking at articles and forums and kind of just seeing what's out there and seeing if you resonate with it, because for some people I know, that's what it took for them to realize that they were in an abusive relationship, because the people around them could point it out, but they're like, oh no, you just don't like them, or it feels weird when you have this like third party who's emotionally invested in your life say it. But I know a lot of people who like it wasn't until like they were just kind of, they finally took that step to kind of do some research and be like, whoa, this really resonates with me, and recognizing that they're in an abusive relationship. So
Right.
yeah.
We have a caller.
Oh, really quick, Kaitlyn says that can be a warning sign, but it can also be lingering trauma. I've thought that in my partner as he ends up not getting angry. Absolutely. That could be it too. And if you have trauma, that's why it's good to go to a therapist to kind of figure out how to differentiate the two, if there's actual danger or if it is, you know, PTSD or something like that. So
Right.
I'd love to take a caller.
So we've got Al, she, her, from Australia, wants to give insight on physical physical violence, emotional and mental abuse from the perspective of a service worker. Al, you are on with Ethan and Hannah. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing
Hi.
good. Thanks for calling.
I'm not a drummer, so you had no callers.
Appreciate it. So, what did you want to talk about? When you say service worker, what do you? I'm not familiar with that term.
Oh, okay. I've been a police officer for 24 years.
Oh, okay.
So I've dealt with literally countless numbers of victims. And I can tell you that the psychological and emotional abuse can absolutely exist in isolation, but it's incredibly rare for physical abuse to exist without that accompanying emotional and psychological control. And so what Hannah said really resonates with me in terms of people not realizing that they're in an abusive relationship. It's like being a frog in a boiling pot of water. You don't realize until
It's too late.
you actually hop out and get an outward perspective. And so therapy is really, really, really vital if you're worried that you're in an abusive relationship, or even if you're the abuser, you really need to speak to a therapist to process those things, because most people on both sides don't realize the harm that they're involved in.
Right.
No, you're absolutely right.
I know I can speak to the manipulation side because I've talked about this before, but many, many years ago in my last relationship, I cheated a lot, and I used tactics to keep myself from getting caught. And I mean, when it eventually all got laid out on the table and I saw the destruction in my wake and saw the look on her face, it fundamentally changed me in a way. Like, I remember that moment so well because I learned how bad it was and how bad I hurt this person, and I swore I would never do it again, and I didn't, and I won't. But I definitely used tactics to protect myself during that period of time.
Hmm. Yeah, no, and it makes sense. And this it's good that you recognize that. I think, I mean, I don't want this to ever happen again. I've made a promise to myself that I would never, lay hands on a partner again in that way. But oftentimes people who are abusers go, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe I've done this." And then they do it again. Like, they feel all that remorse in the moment, but they have so much going on with them that they have not addressed, that it just happens again. They haven't done the work. So, I mean,
Right.
and I'm sure our caller knows all about that.
And when I was in an abusive relationship, I didn't realize it until it wasn't physically abusive, but it was kind of fucked up. And the longer I am away from that relationship, the more I see just how bad it was.
You got
And
out of the boiling water.
I finally got out of the boiling water, but
Yeah.
it's still, to this day, I'm learning new things that I'm just like, holy shit, I guess that was another tactic, or that was another abusive side. Like, there was just,
Hmm.
it sucked. I'll just say that. It sucked.
I'm glad you're not in that anymore, but
Me too.
yeah. This is not the most bubbly we've been again, or so.
No, sorry. Al, could you turn the stream down in the background? Because we're hearing it come back through
Oh,
we're
I
hearing
didn't.
something come back through the phone.
Alice, if there's any more just like insight you can give as someone who has definitely dealt with intervening in these kinds of things and seen it firsthand as a professional, is there anything else you wanted to add or ask or just kind of comment on?
just what you said about people being able to change is possible. People can change. People can get better and stop implementing those controlling behaviours, but it absolutely requires intervention. It just does not happen by itself. So when people say, "Oh, I'll change," yeah, they can change, but you can't just do it by yourself. You need to have a professional to help get you out of those controlling behaviours. So, all hope is not lost, but therapy really is just absolutely vital.
Yeah. And again, if you're in one, please get yourself safely out of it as quickly as possible.
Yeah, and if you don't feel like you can, at least, find someone that you can safely talk to who can support you through that. Well, thank you, Al. I really appreciate calling. It must be, I don't even know, what time is it there?
It's about 1:30 p.m.
Oh, it's tomorrow, yeah.
Oh, okay. You're from the future.
Thank you for tuning in, and thank you for calling.
All right. Well, Al, I hope
no dramas at all.
Appreciate it, and I hope you have a safe rest of your day.
You too. Have a good night.
Good night. We got our first call from the future.
I thought you were going to say Australia, but from the future. Yeah. That always weirds me out.
Well, it's the same first call from Australia.
Okay. Yeah.
And if anyone has any questions or insight, the number's at the bottom of the screen, 951-364-2430. How you feeling, Hannah?
It feels, I thought I would cry and shit, and I really didn't want to, because I didn't want to come off as I did this terrible thing, which I've shed many tears over it, realizing and confronting it and having to do the fucking work, and it was hard and it was scary and uncomfortable, realizing that I didn't have excuses anymore for being a piece of shit, basically. And I'm very, very lucky that I have a healthy relationship with that person still. We're not together, but we're very, very far apart. I mean, I moved away, but I'm just, I've said it a million times to him. I'm just I'm so lucky that I'm just lucky. And I feel
that's the best way I can describe it, is I feel lucky.
And while I don't know, while I always will look back and just be I wish I didn't do that. I didn't want to come on here and just be oh, I'm so ashamed, feel sorry for me, because I'm really proud of my progress. I'm absolutely not proud of those things that I did, but the progress I've made, like you said, it's a different person, and that took a lot of work. It took medication and therapy and tears and being alone for 2 years. I mean, with some flings in the middle that I didn't have a chance to get emotionally invested in. So,
well, it took courage to do what you did and admit to your past.
I don't know. I have a hard time when people praise me around that situation at all, because it's just I wasn't the victim. I was the fucking jerk. I was the abuser. But I don't know. It feels, when I look back and on the progress, I am very proud of myself and where I am today. And I feel a lot better. I'm not perfect, but I certainly have made a lot of progress. I can confidently say I haven't tried to beat anyone up. So, that's good. I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's just, that's my story, I guess. I mean, I didn't really want to go too into detail, because it doesn't matter why I did it. Other than I did have untreated mental illness, and that played a part in it, but that's not an excuse. That's not oh, I was sick, I couldn't control myself. Okay, yeah, kinda, I was seeing red, but I should have gotten help a long time ago. This was only 5 years ago, and I was an adult at that point. I don't know. Secular Rarity says, I know that feeling, Hannah. It's difficult as hell to try own up to who you are and what you have done, but it really is a huge deal. You've taken those steps. Oh, thank you. You should be proud of that. I try to be. It's just, I don't know. It's hard, because I still just anytime I think about it, I'm just like, fuck, like I can't ever take it back, but I can hopefully not make up for it. But, you know, I owe it to him and myself and the people I love to be better, not only for myself, but so I don't cause any more damage, you know, because I was abused, and instead of getting help for that, I just turned into an abuser. And I'm not saying that everyone who gets abused ends up abusing other people. It's pretty likely you're more at risk to become abusive if you have shit you didn't deal with and you don't know how to cope properly, and that abusive behavior becomes normal to you. But I hope that makes sense. Any questions, Ethan?
I have no questions. Well, I have one question, and if you don't want to answer this, and if
I
this
might
is
not.
a weird question, I understand, but I'm curious. What went through your mind to cause you to react that way?
Wanting to inflict the pain that I was feeling on that person. Because in my head, it was like, you made this is going to be really triggering. So if you are someone who's been abused, like this is kind of a very common thing that people may have heard. It was kind of like, you made me do this. Like, look what you've done. You have turned me into a monster. And that's what was going through my mind. And that's just like, it's just like, I feel so ugly thinking that I was justified, or I felt justified in that moment. I immediately was remorseful after I had seen the aftermath, after I, like, you know, the adrenaline calmed down and I realized what I had done to someone I was deeply in love with. And some people might argue that you don't abuse people you love. That's fine. If that's how you feel, I can only speak for myself, is that I really felt like I loved that person. I just was very unhealthy and I really needed help. And I don't think he should have stayed with me. I mean, it's kind of a mutual breakup. You know, him as a person became a trigger for me. So it was like, that's not his problem. It was literally my responsibility to remove myself from the situation and get help and do it myself.
So we have a question. For some odd reason, it's won't let me put it on screen. So left, right, left, I apologize. I'm not sure why. But he's been a YouTube member for 4 months. And here's his question.
Thank
Do
you.
you know where the abusive behavior stems from?
I can only speak for myself, and what I learned in therapy is that it was kind of witnessing and taking the brunt of abuse, and it's not that, like, I knew it was bad, but it was like a learned behavior. It's like, this is how I learned to express bad emotions growing up, and then all this unresolved trauma. So that was basically it for me. I mean, children who are abused end up at risk for becoming abusive, and you know, I come from like generations on a side of abuse, and it's kind of like, that's how you learn to take out your anger. It's like, you know, there's part of me that was thinking it's not that big of a deal, I'm just mad, you know. So I mean, I can only speak for myself. So
Uh, Jessica Marie says, you don't abuse people you love is absolutely false. I've been abused by people to this day that still love me. They were struggling a lot with themselves.
I just think it's so like separate of you. Like, you don't make anyone abuse you. You don't deserve it. You don't cause someone to abuse you. It is entirely them.
Oh,
And
yeah, 100%.
yeah. And that doesn't mean you should go, oh, this person is abusive to me, but they love me. It's, yeah, they love you in like the only way they know how, and that way is
Isn't good enough
not good
for
enough. Like, it is not going to serve you. You deserve fucking better. Like, not saying like that person's just evil and is damned to hell for eternity. Like, people can change, but it is not your responsibility to put yourself at risk hoping that they get better. And I know that's hard. I know that is hard, but I mean, I can't force anyone to do anything, but I hope that, I don't know, I hope that resonates with someone, if that makes sense. Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
Jessica. So,
Hannah, if you could check the private chat for me real quick.
yeah, no, of course. Yeah, no, this is kind of one of those things that I wanted to talk about on this show, but I didn't really know how to fill up an hour of it. You know, I would love to, if anyone wants to reach out and like ask for some resources, if you feel safe to do so or comfortable doing so, I'm happy to provide them. But it's just something I wanted to address. It was important to me, and this show, I think, is about being honest about things that make you uncomfortable. And sometimes that's not things you giggle and laugh about. Sometimes it's kind of gross and uncomfortable. And that's shadow work. You gotta confront that shit sometimes. So I don't know. I feel like it's gonna be a shorter stream tonight, but
Agreed.
I hope that you guys took something away from this. It's just, I told Ethan, I was like, at some point I want to talk about this because it's something I've went through, and I feel like I want to talk about it because I don't think a lot of people talk about from the perspective of like, I don't know, people kind of just like keep that side of them away and hope no one finds out, and never, like, if you don't address something, how are you going to fix it? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, like you should absolutely reach out and talk to people about it. In my case, I'm showing the whole goddamn world, but good thing we're a small show. No, but yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
Beyond, thank you for the $4.99 super chat. People can change, but you should put yourself first. I'm echoing Hannah here, but it isn't your responsibility to force them to change.
No, it's not at all. Like, put yourself first, especially if it's your safety. Especially, and I don't want to like start getting real emotional, but if there are children involved, I am begging you, literally like begging you, please consider alternative options for your life, because having two parents in a household was not worth what I went through. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Right.
Like, it doesn't matter that like, oh, we had, but the family should stay together. And we've talked about that when we were talking about marriage, when, oh, people should make it work. No, like, no, don't.
No, leave.
If you have children involved, especially if the person, maybe if the person is is talking not just talking the talk, walking the walk, and getting help, and is making active changes that you can see. Actions speak louder than words. Don't take promises. Take action. Like, that is the only thing you should accept, because you are worth it. And if you have children, they are worth it. Please keep that in mind.
One more super chat from Left Right Left. Thank you. You are amazing for sharing this. Very brave. Admitting that you're wrong isn't the end. It's the beginning of becoming a more resilient person.
Like I said, I have a hard time, like, thank you for saying that. But I'm getting better every day. I think I've made a lot of progress.
You want to go to the Discord after show?
Yeah, I would love. Yeah, we're gonna end up a little early. It's just, this is just something I was hoping to cover at some point. I don't think I have an hour's worth of content talking about me being a shithead. So I hope you guys took something from this. Sorry if it was weird. Sorry if it upset you. But we'll be in the Discord after, where we'll chat some more. And next week we are going to talk about. Should we? I feel like we should. We had an idea, but I feel like maybe we should. This kind of sucked. Like, I feel good that I did it, but.
But it was a kind of a downer episode.
Yeah.
And we needed an upper episode. Okay.
Yeah.
So then we'll save that. We'll figure it out then. We'll find another topic.
We'll give you some comic relief next week, because this was uncomfortable for everybody. What do you have going on this week, or until next Thursday?
Perspective Tuesday, at 7 p.m. Central. It'll be hosted by Genevieve, and our lovely call screener, Secular Rarity.
Oh, okay. I want to plug something important. Next month is Faithless Forum. Go to faithlessforum.com. It's going to be in Austin, Texas. I think it's the 19th to the 21st. Buy your tickets because rooms and things might sell out. And you want to meet Ethan, and you want to meet me, and you want to meet that awesome lineup of people, including Holy Kool-Aid. And Skeptic Generation is going to be there. And a lot of people. So it's going to be a blast.
Yeah, can't wait. Jessica Marie says, extra props to you, Hannah. Being that real is never easy. No, it's not.
I tried.
And, there are topics I want to cover eventually that I still have not. I admire your courage because you were able to come forward and do it. There are a couple things I want to talk about that I am currently just unable to do, and I hope to one day be able to.
Well, if I'm going to promote, honest and open conversations and talking about things that I feel like should be talked about, I should probably share the hard stuff too. So that was my thought process. But I was ready. You might not be ready. So
exactly. I've shared a lot of hard stuff already. I can only do so much at once.
Yes, exactly.
So,
and you've made progress as well.
Oh, I got a real quick thank our patrons: City Plaza, Left, Right, Left, Kenneth, Leonard, Skye, JumpandShoot, Oz, Secular Rarity, Philip Leitch, Kaitlyn Beyond, Toast, Richard Gilliver, Sunset Sarge, Ameet, Mathew, Ray Sylvester, Kyle Brewer. Thank you for your patronage. Everyone else, feel free to join us in the Discord after show.